Hey guys, my name's Khadroth, and today I'm going to be talking to you about everything you need to know on the new Grand class system. So JP has finally given it to us. It's been much awaited at this point for months on end. We've been knowing it's coming due to dev comments, and finally today we got the first rung of the Grand class system with the Saber class score that they've added to the game. So the Grand system, on its surface, it really seems like it's going to be a very simple system. It's more of the same of what you guys should have already become accustomed to, especially here for you NA players, with us having the class score system now in effect on NA. You guys can kind of take the concepts learned from that and easily apply that to what's happening on JP. So the Grand system has come in. We can now choose a Grand Servant of each class that we want to be our Grand. And that's going to be the one that we're going to select. It's going to get some enhancements as a result of that. And we're going to have new systems in play that we're going to be able to use. But the things you guys need to know about it first and foremost are, what do you guys actually need in order to unlock and utilize the Grand Graph system? So to begin with, you're going to need the Ordeal Call prologue done. So for those of us on NA, we're already at that point. As long as you're caught up on story, you should easily be able to unlock this 2 years later when it comes out on JP. So at this point, that's really the only requirement to be able to participate, but there are going to be some things that you need to do in order to actually unlock the Saber Grand graph for yourself. So a little bit what you want to do is you're going to want to go into the new system and essentially run through the unlock battle that they've given it. They've called it the crowning battle. That's going to allow you to be able to unlock the Saber Grand Graph. From there, you will choose a Grand Servant, and there are requirements. One, it's going to have to be a Saber here. Now, each class will get its due with the first 7 main classes coming out all this year. They have not revealed any plans for the extra classes, but it does seem extremely likely that the extra 1 and extra 2 groupings will at least get 1 each, if not more. We'll just have to see in the future, but that is something that will probably not happen until next year after the finale for Ordeal Call. Now, who you're going to choose for your Saber class, your Saber graph here, is going to end up being somebody that is level 100 and has all active skills at level 10. This does not include appends. This does not force you to have the unit at 120 or anything like that. So there's no coin involvement, nothing like that. So it's a relatively easy system to unlock for anybody that is a much more veteran player. If you're a newer player, this will definitely have its concerns, but keep in mind that the Grand system is not going to apply to a whole lot of things, at least as of the current point in time. It will apply to these unlock battles. It will apply to the farming for the Grand system, but it will not apply to basically anything else that we know of at the current point in time, other than assumedly something at the finale of Ordeal Call. So that's pretty much how we anticipated it. I do assume that at some point next year after the finale, there will be other content that you will be able to use Grands in, because if not, why did the devs do all of this work if it's just going to be a one-off system that kind of comes and goes? So I assume there will be a little bit more to this, and we'll just have to wait and see kind of what they plan to do. But if you have those parameters set, you can choose a Grand from one of the available units that you have, and then that will be your choice, and you will be able to enhance them. Now, that is going to utilize things like the new Grand Graph class score. So the Saber class has a specific one for it that's going to allow it to receive these enhancements. And on screen now, you guys can actually see this is what it looks like, and it basically, we have spelled out all of the relevant buffs for you. There's definitely some interesting things here, as the inner circle of this class score, the closest ones to the center, cost 40 of the new sort of Saber Stardust currency that's going to be farmable from the nodes that you'll unlock for this. And each one of those will give you a card type up buff or a buff to your extra attack, as you guys can see. And then the rung immediately out from them, the attaching node, will be an 80 cost for each of those effects. Those are each unique and different from each other. There's no real theme amongst them, but again, they're each a very nice buff in and of themselves, particularly the starting charge one, as well as the master skill effectiveness, which will enhance your mystic code capabilities. And then from there, the adjoining nodes to those that branch out from each of these will end up being a 140 cost of the Stardust each. That is going to be pretty hefty, but the way that one's going to work is that it's going to give you a ton of extra effects that could be really useful to you for things like carding, or again, when you use a Noble Phantasm, you will gain a 50,000 damage cut for one time over 2 turns against enemy Noble Phantasms. And then also your master skills cooling down twice as fast. So again, Mystic Code, order change, things like that, like anything that you can use from that is going to cool down a lot faster and get you a lot more benefit. Now, the 140 cost nodes don't have any scaling to them, but the 80 and 40 cost nodes do scale up depending on how much you've invested in class score for that particular class, as well as how many units of that class and how much you have them bonded. So the 40 cost ones, the closest circle, is going to scale per the amount that you have for each class score, like little icon that you have unlocked. So the base Saber class score in this case is going to help the scalability here. If you say have leveled up your Lancer class score, but this is the Saber one, that's not going to have any impact, but it will impact you, say, when the Lancer's turn comes around. So that's the way to understand this, is the more work you've done on the Saber class score, the stronger the buffs will be here for you, essentially, depending on how much you want to get. It scales all the way up to a 50% self-steroid on some of these, so it's really, really nice. You definitely want to enhance it by leveling your normal class score for that class. From there, the 80 cost nodes, the ones that are immediately out from the inner circle, are going to end up basically scaling per the bond level that you level up all units of that class. So all of your Sabers combined, their additive bond levels are what will determine the amount of scalability that you get on these enhancements. However, similar deal here, there will be a cap, just as if you had completed the full class score. If you have, say, more than 200 bond across all of your Sabers, that will cap out the buffs here. And that's, I'm not going to say easy to do, but if you're someone that's been playing a while and you have a pretty diverse lineup of Sabers, you should be able to get this one done. But again, this will be more difficult for other classes that we maybe are not rolling as much or just don't have as many options because we're somebody that's newer to the game. So that's something to consider here, but keep in mind, regardless, this is a very, very good effect, and it doesn't matter what your scalability is on this, you just want to get the most you possibly can out of this system. Now, keep in mind too, these nodes will be farmable. When they first come out, they are going to cost 40 AP, but not have a storm pod cost, which means you can infinitely repeat them here for this first week. However, after that time, they will start to have a storm pod cost associated with them, and then you will not be able to infinitely do them. You'll have to kind of go through them slowly over time. So I actually do advise popping some apples here early on, getting a lot of it done, if you desire to get this done early and quickly, as opposed to being shackled to it with your storm pods and being kind of forced to do this in as efficient a way as possible otherwise. Again, the nodes are actually somewhat raid-like in the sense that they have high health enemies with really big health bars, but they also drop really good things. They drop pretty much everything that you could possibly need, short of embers. So in that regard, they're pretty good for QP, for ascension materials, for again, things like statues and skill gems as well. So it's a really, really good idea to go ahead and actually get some of that farming done. They're also fantastic for bonding and master experience, and I'll talk about that a little bit more here when we start going over the quality of life adjustments. So again, that's going to be the basis for why you're going to want to do this stuff, but that's not going to be everything here. And from there, once we've done the farming that we need, once we've enhanced up to 12 different buffs from that grand graph, that grand class score, then we will have the ability to do the CQ. There's a total of 16 buffs, so you don't have to do all of them, but you will have to have done the majority of them. From there, that will unlock a challenge quest that will allow you to validate your grand. Once you've done that, it's kind of set in stone and you're good. You will have a like unlocker slash what's the word I'm looking for this? Basically a reset button, a reset item for the grand graph system, so that you can actually go ahead and say, hey, I need to change who my grand is. Maybe another unit comes out, you really like them, or maybe you've just decided that this unit isn't going to cut it because of whatever the content is. You will get 5 of those initially here with this first campaign. So it's assumed that you'll probably get 5 for each of them, which across 7 different classes at minimum will lead to 35 different reset options. Now, the choice is yours as to whether or not to reset. I think a lot of people won't bother resetting their grand choice very often, but some people probably will, and they'll try to metagame that. Just understand that sort of thing is, at the current point in time, somewhat finite and limited. Also, in addition to what we'll be getting rewards wise from the nodes, there are guaranteeable rewards for first time clears of those nodes that include new 5-star foes and gold foes, sorry, and faux paws specific to that class. So the 5-star foes will not be specific, and they are just functionally a faster method of gold foeing a unit. They grant plus 100 for each of them, meaning you only need 10 of any given type in order to max out gold foe a unit, as opposed to the 4-star foes where you need far more. However, they still operate in the same pool. Apologies for the tweet that I put out earlier that made people think that it was basically a unique thing that stacked on top of already existing gold foes. It does not. It shares the exact same cap of 2k. So as you start gold foeing a unit to 2k, you can do it now either with 4-star foes or 5-star foes. Does not matter. The other thing to mention here is your choice for your grand class will immediately upon selection just gain an additional 1,000 extra HP and attack. That is just an immediate buff for making them your grand, and that will transfer over outside of the grand system. Same thing with the 5-star foes. That does not have to be used on your grand, so obviously that sort of thing will work outside the grand system and grand battles. The 5-star faux paws will be class specific, but they also will not have to be on your grand or anybody else. It's just, again, a faster method of faux pawing a unit. So it's really good to see that, because faux paws took a heck of a lot of time in order to complete on a given unit. So I think these are actually really good additions to the game, as it's speeding up your capacity and capability to enhance your favorite units and allow you to just make them stronger on a more increased scale. So again, that's going to be basically the additional changes that are going to be coming out from there. And like I said, you're going to be getting those from doing the first time clears of these farming nodes. However, that's the only way to get them at the current point in time. There is not a like farmable method or achievable method at this current point, though I'm sure the devs will probably add something in the future along those lines for how to acquire them. Probably not farmable, but at least something that you could get in a limited quantity regularly. Now, the time limit for the storm pods and the requirement of that is going to be May 28th. After that point, it will begin to cost storm pods to do those nodes. Before that point, it will not cost anything again. So I highly recommend getting those done. When you go into the nodes, you actually can manage to, again, get these really, really awesome rewards, but you can also take a friend's grand servant if you so choose. It can be even the same as yours. Duplicates do not matter in that regard. So it is a really, really nice thing. There is a requirement though that you must use all units of that class. So for the Saber class score and Grand system, for instance, here, we're going to have to take all sabers as we go into that node in order to farm. So that's going to make things a little bit difficult and interesting depending on your setup. The good news is there is damage bonus in the nodes, so it's really not that difficult. I was farming the maximum rank difficulty, which the nodes go all the way from level 100 all the way up to level 100 triple star. So plus, 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 star, double star, and triple star. So it's honestly kind of crazy, the scaling that they've put in here, and this is definitely the highest stuff that we've had in the game so far. But honestly, the HP values here are not too crazy, and at least the Musashi that we will be fighting in there has not only some interesting mechanics in the sense that she'll debuff you with defense down and attack down, but she'll also have an invuln up, but the invuln up won't really matter because as long as you're taking sabers, which you're forced to take, it literally just won't apply to you. Also, another interesting little factoid there is Musashi in these nodes actually has a unique animation set for her Noble Phantasm. So it stands to reason that while she hasn't had it yet, that she will have an animation sort of renewal coming up here, probably very soon, I imagine, with some sort of like subsequent banner or something like that, in conjunction with this grand system. But we'll just have to wait and see when the devs want to give it to her. It's definitely an interesting thing nonetheless. But yes, again, the maximum health that you're going to encounter in the highest level node is a 3.1 million HP Musashi. It's actually not that crazy given that you have damage bonus. So again, take your time with it, but I do think most people should be able to pretty easily get through these nodes and farm them pretty regularly. Several people have already gotten their entire class score done for the grand class, and I don't think that's that insane, really. It just required them to sit down and pop a couple of apples to get through it. In order to get all the missions done, you need to have done 50 of the runs, but that's still pretty doable in one day for a lot of people. Not something you have to complete in one day, but it is an interesting thing nonetheless. But I think for most people, it will probably be done in like, I don't know, a week or something like that. Now, another interesting aspect to your Grand is going to be the fact that they can actually equip 3 different craft essences to themselves at any given time. So the way to understand this is that you can equip a base craft essence, something like a K-scope or a Black Grail, to yourself. It does not matter what you choose. You can choose anything, but you can equip a base craft essence to your Grand, plus their Bond CE, assuming you have them at Bond 10. Now, there is a caveat here. This is another mistake that I made earlier, and that's that basically you have a choice. You can choose between either taking the Bond CE effect or just 50% charge if you don't like what the Bond CE effect is, which 50% charge is really, really strong, so that's hard to beat in a lot of scenarios. But the way to understand this is if you have the Bond CE, you have that choice. So again, if you're Bond 10, you will have a choice between either the Bond CE effect or 50% charge. If you don't have the character at Bond 10 yet, you will not be able to make a choice at all for the second craft essence. So that slot will just remain blank. So it is something that you should be aware of, especially for those of you guys on an A that are 2 years kind of behind everything. Now's your time. Go ahead and start getting working on some of the stuff, unless it's a unit you don't have yet. So that way you guys are more prepared to be able to fully enhance your unit. Similarly, with the third CE that you'll be able to take, it will be any CE from, like, say, the Da Vinci shop, Valentine CEs. There's some really interesting ones that can go in here, but it's basically it's non-combat CEs for the most part. But interestingly enough, there are some craft essences that you guys can take that actually do have 2k attack scaling if you level them all the way up. Detective Foams is certainly one of them. There are a couple of others out there. So keep that in mind, that makes for a very good craft essence to slot in as the third one. Again, Detective Foams basically gives bond up and QP up, so it's certainly a solid one there for you. But the scaling actually makes a whole lot of sense for your third craft essence to just make your unit even stronger. Similarly, if you're taking a more supportive unit, then putting something in that has all HP scaling might also be really good for you. It just really depends on what you're trying to do. Now, when you've completed the CQ and validated your grand choice, you will also receive a commemorative CE for that. That craft essence will actually give you a extra 1000 HP and attack, but that will go in that third slot that we mentioned. So it'll be competing with other things that say give 2k attack. If you have nothing better to put in, it's certainly fantastic, but honestly, you should have plenty of options for what you could slot into that third slot besides that. Again, it's mostly just a commemorative CE. It has the really awesome grand artwork for each class on it, so you can expect to get more of those with each one that comes out. Just a couple of other tidbits here. As we had mentioned, Bond, the devs have actually implemented an idea that I've been talking about for years on the channel. I'll probably put that in its own video on the side for you guys to watch, but it's really interesting that they have included a Bond overflow mechanic that I've been mentioning for a long time that would solve a lot of bonding issues with the game. And they have done that, and so now you guys don't need to fear bonding your units up anymore. You should actually instead go the complete opposite direction and just completely go hard into it and try to be bonding as much and as fast as possible, because it's now to your benefit. You'll be able to hyper bond characters and be able to get them up and going really fast, assuming you have units in your party that are bond 15. That's what it's going to require in order for you to get the additional bond. So if you have a unit at bond 15, they will not gain any bond, obviously, but instead they will give other units in the party plus 25% bonding for that run. So it's going to be really good to be able to kind of transfer that bond over to other people. And it means you don't have to worry about taking your, meta supports that are bonded out, taking your favorite units that are already bond 15, that sort of stuff. Now you can take them and still not feel like it's a total waste for you bond efficiency wise. So it's definitely going to be a nice thing to have for that. The other thing worth mentioning is that they have also added a limited time capability to reset your class score. You will have one reset for each class. That's it. And you'll be able to get those in the DaVinci shop, basically. But again, so far, as of this current point in time, there's only one reset available. So choose wisely, don't waste them. Again, you really shouldn't have to too much, but if you feel like, oh man, I invested in the wrong things here, maybe this is a good idea to allow you guys to switch. It will refund everything that you've invested in that class score, including the Stardust, the QP, the Ascension mats, the statues, everything that you've put in. So it is really nice to be able to get that back and to be able to make a change, but I'm going to caution people from being too quick to jump on the bandwagon for that, because again, the finale isn't until the end of the year. We don't really know at the end what this is going to kind of require. So to me, I'd hold off on it for now, but it could be something that you'll see people do as the other grand classes roll out here. People might try to switch to take advantage of the buffs. The choice is up to them, but keep in mind, you can only do it the one time. So I highly caution against using them sort of too quickly and overzealously. There will also be master missions and things released with this campaign. There's really some nice rewards. They'll give more of the unlockers, including, I believe, if you win the CQ, you will get a new rank 3 unlocker for the base class score system. So that sort of stuff would be nice. We've got more teapots coming in, so even further bond enhancement, more basically teardrops for grails, more quartz, just about everything you guys could ask for, everything for this system. And as we already mentioned, again, the new Grand system will be coming out monthly. This is something we had hypothesized, but they've pretty much all but confirmed it now, since this one comes out in May and the next one literally comes out in June. So it stands to reason that each one of them will be coming out 1 month at a time, all the way up through November, with the stated finale coming out in the winter of 2025. So it stands to reason that that's probably going to mean December for the finale, probably right at smack at the end of the year, as they really like to do that sort of thing to make the new year transition into a new part. So I would expect that that's when the finale will occur, and you guys should prepare for it. But that also means you're going to get one class score basically given to you each month, and expect that the Grand system will just continue to progress in this monthly way, which is definitely going to make it interesting, especially with anniversary and summer coming up, other things like that. We're still missing the 4th Olga quest, which I anticipate will probably come sometime around New Year's, so we'll just have to wait and see. But it's definitely something that I'm looking forward to in that regard. Now, again, don't get confused. The Grand system is going to be a pretty significant change for the game. There's going to be a lot more enhancement capability that you're going to be able to do for your units. You're going to be able to take it and still receive some effects in normal nodes, just not the class score specific effects and enhancements. So it will be a very interesting upgrade, but it's not something you necessarily need to go crazy over, other than the time sort of incentivized nature of the individual release campaign. So my advice, get out there, farm the mats, try to like pick a grand and go with it. But if you have to choose or if you have to change your grand later on, there's no real problem with that, given the fact that they're going to be giving us more of those sort of change items over time. But again, let me know what you guys think about the Grand system. Is there anything else you'd like to see explained about it? And what, who did you choose for your Grand? I'll be curious to hear all of you guys' choices and all of your thoughts on this system. And I will see you guys for the next video. Thank you guys for watching. Later. Hey, if you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe, right?